Are you too busy, too stressed out, unhealthy? Then this is the place for you. Welcome to Balanced Living for Busy Professionals, where we help you create wellness and balance with a holistic approach that will work for you, even with the busiest of schedules, so you can live the life you want. And now, here's your host, Diane Randall.
Hello and welcome to Balanced Living for Busy Professionals. I'm Diane Randall, your host. Thank you so much for joining. And if you're new to the show, welcome. It's really exciting to have you here and listening. And I also want to give you guys a special shout out. Since we started this podcast a year and a half ago, our listenership has doubled. And I really want you to know that I appreciate you for supporting the podcast. My intention for Balanced Living for Busy Professionals is to bring you, the listener, the best life-changing wisdom, inner tools, and strategies to help any of you break free of habits, patterns, and attitudes that may be keeping you stuck in place. My intention is to support you in creating a life that you truly love, and it doesn't matter how busy your schedule. So today I'm talking to Claudia Braun. Claudia Braun is a healthy lifestyle and weight loss coach, and she has a passion for helping people feel amazing without dieting so that they can have the body and life that they can embrace and love. And she's also here to tell you how you can get fit without all the gimmicks and how that you can live a healthy life. I'm just so excited to have Claudia Braun here to talk to you about creating your fit and healthy self. Welcome, Claudia.
Thank you.
I'm so happy that you're here to talk about the art of creating your fit and healthy self. We all want to hear about that.
Yeah. Well, I want to live that, right? So a little bit of background about me is that I started my practice really out of my own healing. And I had a kind of a messed up relationship with eating and my body. So, it wasn't really taking the best care of myself. And, I had a lot of focus on wanting to lose weight and a lot about, dieting and restricting. And when I finally got that really was not working, and I needed to make some changes so that I could actually be happy, things started to turn around. And that has really been this desire to create this, like the art of being fit and healthy. And I thought, I say that because, art to me is a process. As somebody who's done, kind of played around with different art, there's, it's like you're finding your kind of voice. And that's been my experience of this, getting fit and getting healthy, is that I started my path about 20 years ago. And, I started just like putting the pieces together, kind of discovered that I didn't like myself that much, and in discovering that, I realized, wow, like I was not caring for myself. It was all about, kind of wanting to look a certain way, but a lot of deprivation involved there. And so really kind of putting things together where I learned to start to feed myself, like really feed myself and nourish myself, and then discover that, I actually had to make time for myself. And then, so when I say like the art of living, creating this fit and healthy is really to put things into our life that makes us feel good and creates time for ourselves, time to give ourselves permission to move in a way that feels good for us, to choose food in a way that feels good for us, and to really focus on the inner part and then the outer starts to match that.
That is so awesome. So when you work with people, how do you, many of us, many people from watching TV, the messages that we get feel really bad about ourselves. Many people do when it comes to health and fit. Those are two things that many people feel they never master. So how do you get people to embrace that from the inside out?
Yeah. It's interesting. Many times when people start to work with me, they come because they want to lose weight. And when we start working together, quickly what starts to happen, they start saying, I just want to be healthy. And so making that shift is partly in discovering that when I work with my clients and I start educating them about different foods and how they affect the body, and then when they start eating those foods, like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better, then they start getting like, you know what, I really just want to feel good. I want to feel good. And then they start, that kind of creates its own ripple effect. And so then they start going, oh, when I go to a party and I, shove food into my face, I don't feel good when I get home. And then they start getting that, okay, what can I do that actually makes me feel better? Like not standing in front of the snacks, not standing in front of the, the dessert is really a better approach.
The dessert is calling. At least when I was a sugar addict many years ago, like 10 years ago now, that sugar, not only did it call me, I craved it and couldn't take my eyes off of it. So saying don't stand in front of it is a good idea, but I would physically leave it, but not mentally. So how do you help people release those crazy cravings?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I mean, right. It's like that crazy cravings. So the more it's almost like I tell my clients sometimes that, sugar is almost like, like a virus. Like the more you feed it, the more it grows. And so when you start to shift what you feed yourself, you diminish the cravings.
Yes. I can tell you that's exactly what happened to me.
Yeah.
I changed I actually went plant-based, and I just noticed that over 3 months, I hadn't had one thing sweet, and I didn't even think about it. And that totally blew my mind. It totally blew my mind.
Right.
So I hear you. I hear what you're saying when you make that connection.
Yeah. And it can be really tricky. I had one of my clients was a nurse, and she said, I'm one of the most unhealthiest vegetarians. And, she didn't eat any meat, but she didn't really eat any greens or anything else. It's like mostly she had, Doritos, chips, or, that's all right. That'll fall into a vegetarian diet. And every cake and dessert that she could, put her hands on. Right?
And that's the thing today. There's a lot of vegan junk food out there. There's a lot of vegan food. There was a time when it wasn't that much, but now it is a lot of junk food. So I feel you have to be just as cognizant about that as you do other things.
You're so right. Right. I tell my clients, even though it says healthy, it's processed food.
Yeah. It is. Yeah. It really is. And how do you help people, not only in the food, but also in the fitness? How do you help people get centered on exactly what they need as individuals?
It's really, it's interesting. I gave a talk yesterday, and, I was saying, I was asking people kind of like, what do you eat? And one man was like, oh, I'm all plant-based. And someone else is, like, I don't eat, I only eat meat. And I said, there's not one right way to eat. There are no good foods. There are no bad foods. But there is something that is good and right for you and something that is good and right for me and, the next person. And so I work with my clients about, bio-individuality, and that, each of us has our own internal blueprint. And the more we tune into that, the more things work. And which is why diets don't work, because it's like you're taking something from the outside and saying, okay, make that work. But it's not you.
Okay.
And so I really work around, getting them more conscious and really tuning into when you eat those foods, how do you feel? Because your body is going to tell you what's good for you and not something else.
But what do you say when your body says it's not good for you, but many people ignore that. They ignore that.
Yeah.
Because it's about what I'm craving in the moment, what I want.
Exactly. And that's really a lot of the work that I do is around helping people. Right. So we're very pill oriented. We like immediate gratification. And when we act out of that place, it's I just want to eat it. We also end up with consequences.
Talk more about that.
So the consequences really are the thing that make you go, that's not how I want to feel. That's not who I want to be. And so I work a lot about helping there to be congruency, and that we have many thoughts that come through our head, but we don't act on all of them. And so we do a lot of emotional work around clearing the cravings and clearing the patterns that keep us stuck. Because a lot of my clients have lost weight and then they put it back on. And so there's a pattern that gets put in place. And so when you know how good you feel when you're off of sugar, but something happens and you're like, oh, it's not so bad. I'm having a really hard day and I'm just going to have one. And then the next day comes, well, it's actually not so bad. And I'm just having one. And then that one turns into two. And so it's like that. So part of the work that we do is about really taking them back to how do you really want to feel? And if you stay in that place of how do I want to feel, and you know that when you eat that food, you don't feel that way, it takes you off your game.
So can you give an example of a feeling and how you help someone to overcome from an emotional aspect of eating things that were bad?
Yeah. So one of my clients that I worked with, we discovered through the work that we were doing together that she had, when she was a kid, like her mom had passed away. And when she was a kid, she and her mom, like one of the things they did together was they shared like cakes and candies and sweets. And it was a really like sweet, literally, connection that she had with her, that she passed away. And so what she discovered was a lot of times that for her, as the work that we did together, that came up and she didn't know that. She didn't know that, this feeling she had from her past was actually playing out in the present.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So we were able to, like I said, use the work that I do, which I do emotional clearing with my clients. So we were able to, bring that story up and then clear it so that she could make a choice without that story running her.
Okay. What did she do? If the story stopped running her, did she just stop telling that story?
She did. Well, when the story wasn't running her, then she was not, it was different, right?
Okay.
The story was not there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, she didn't need that connection to her mom anymore because she'd healed it.
Yeah, because it's deeper than the food. It's what kept her together. And I hear what you're saying about that, because for a long time around Thanksgiving, with my family, there'd be cakes, pies, all the food that I grew up with. And I can tell you from probably about 3 years, it took me to just be able to, I had to redefine why I was present at the Thanksgiving meals, because I actually had an experience just being emotionally withdrawn a little bit for the first couple of years because I didn't know how to be.
Yeah, right.
In that space with my family, because food brought us together. You know, we'd have these big family feasts. I mean, it took me a while to recognize, yes, the food brings us together, and I just found other ways. And now I just show up, you know, because I love my family and I'm there. But food plays a huge role in our lives.
So much so. So much so. And you're so right, Diane. I mean, it's one of the things that comes up a lot because they're redefining themselves. Many of their relationships have revolved around eating or drinking.
Right. And if you're busy, oh my goodness, which most of us say we are, there's really no time. Not only time, I have people tell me I don't even want to think about it. I don't even want to have to think about it or put that effort into it, because I feel we've been conditioned that we want the fast way to eating.
Exactly. And that's really what it comes down to. I mean, when I work with people, it's like, you get to decide, right? I mean, this is your body. This is your life. How do you want to feel?
I like that. I really do, because it forces you to pause and go inside and really take that in and think about it.
Yeah, right. And it really takes on the idea that we get to be responsible and we get to choose.
Wow. We get to be responsible and we get to choose. So we can't blame anybody for where we are, which, you baked that cake, so I had to eat it. Exactly. So talk about the weight loss, because there's so much information around that. Your clients that are successful with the weight loss, what did they do specifically that really supported them and they were able to lose weight?
Yeah, so good question. And really the thing, I'm working with a group right now, and, one of the things that they're identifying is that they're realizing this is not about a diet. This is about a lifestyle change. And my clients that are successful embrace that.
Wow.
And, they're willing to do it differently.
Willing to do it differently. They're willing to change their mind about what they're doing and recognizing that what they have is not working for them. Exactly. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Right. I mean, I frequently repeat Einstein's saying, continuing to do the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is the definition of insanity.
Yeah.
Right. And frequently that's what people do. They're like, well, I don't want to take time. I just don't, I'm just going to grab a coffee. I'll grab a drive-thru. I'm like, okay, but you're not going to get results either.
Do you think, and I'm really asking this question because I'm so curious. Do you think the emotional conditioning has a lot to do with it? Like what we see on commercials, what we hear in the environment. What part do you feel that plays?
Well, there's no question. I mean, a lot of the work that I do with people is around, emotional and stress eating, because our emotions are so powerful. And, you said, what do you do about cravings? I mean, and cravings also can be connected to our emotions, right? I mean, you end a relationship, or you don't get the promotion that you wanted, or you have a hard day, or all that. Emotions are going on.
Yeah.
Right. And people are, we don't really live in a society as kids. We're not really encouraged. I mean, maybe it's better now. I'm not sure, but we're not really encouraged to feel your feelings. Let's talk about it. You get the space to feel it. Most of us, we're kind of encouraged to, push it down.
Not only push it down, but you got to be strong.
Right.
And part of that conditioning of being strong is that you don't feel your feelings. But, now what I feel in my work, at least, is that I am helping people. And that's what this podcast is all about, giving people inner tools and strategies to help them break free of habits and patterns that are keeping them stuck. And one thing about that is to feel from the inside out and think about and experience yourself from a place of feeling. Because without the feeling, you really can't tune into who you are and what you want and all those other things.
It's so true. It's so true. And, also what I noticed is that it's really about giving people permission, because they don't really even think that that's okay.
Okay.
In my group, we do a lot of, self-care, teach them self-care practices, ways to, bring more relaxation into their life. And then so how did it go? And, the one woman was like, well, I did that thing and once it felt good and I didn't do it again. And then, the group sort of chimed in. They're like, yeah, I didn't even think about it after the group. And then the conversation really went to, they feel guilty taking care of themselves and they feel like it's not okay. And so I'm really come to discover that it's about giving people, permission. You get to feel, you get to be human, you get to take care of yourself. We do babies. We do not expect them to, just suck it up and, stop, it's you care for them. And I think the same is needed for us.
Yes, we have to at some point. And I remember my life before I made myself a priority and when that shifted. And I tell you, you are able to not only take care of yourself, but what you eat matters. You think more about it once you're in touch with how you feel. If you're feeling bad, do you find that your clients eat? Are they more conscious or unconscious more when they're feeling bad?
Right. Because when you're feeling bad, it's really easy to go unconscious.
Yes, it is.
And so I really encourage them, just up the compassion, because it's hard to make good choices when in that place.
And not just any old compassion. I'm thinking you're talking about self-compassion.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. Just love yourself up so much, because it's hard to make these choices when, the groove has been set in one direction.
Yeah.
Right. And now you're saying, okay, that train's been going that way for a long time. And now we're going to pick the train up and take it to a different track. And it's not so easy.
It's not so easy. But then again, is it easy to be sick? Is it easy to be stressed? Is it easy to just be unhappy and unhappy with your body for the rest of your life? So, now for me, I take that a little further when people say it's not that easy. I get that it's not that easy, but let's talk about the flip side of that for a minute.
Oh, I couldn't agree more, Diane. I could not agree more, because the mind, and this is the thing, it's the mind, it goes into its groove unless we stay conscious. And so that's the work, really, is about noticing. This is what I tell my clients, notice where your thinking goes. And then just kind of go, is that true? Because in that moment, it's that piece of cake is just going to make me feel so much better. That's what I hear my clients say.
And I think the listeners agree with you on that one. Some of them, many of them.
It's I had a client whose, father-in-law died, and it's the ice cream, her daughter, the ice cream came out, and it's okay, well, you have some other options, just so you know. You have other options. You could go with that, right? And so it's really, kind of having a conversation with the thinking. It's is that true? Is that really going to make me feel better? In the moment, it seems so, but not. And I completely agree with you. It's The downside is that you don't feel well afterwards. You don't feel good about yourself. The ice cream doesn't really make you feel good. It's just a temporary thing. So it feels so much better to kind of really be awake through these things and be able to pay attention.
Wow. Well, Claudia, I really want to thank you for being here on Balanced Living for Busy Professionals and sharing your wisdom, your expertise in lifestyle and weight loss methods. I'm really, really grateful for that because so many people struggle in this area. So many people, and busy people have even a harder time to focus on how to take care of themselves, let alone losing weight and learning what to eat. So I'm just really happy you're here. You've certainly given us some tools to help us to have a better, fit, and healthy body. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure. Diane, thank you for having me.
And if you're interested in knowing more about Claudia and her work, her website and information will be in the show notes for this show. So I want to hear from you. I want to know what you think about this episode. If there's any topics or comments that you have about the show, please list them right here on the website, Balanced Living for Busy Professionals. Leave your comments. Tell us what you want to hear. I really, really want to hear from you.
Thank you for listening to Balanced Living for Busy Professionals. This podcast is sponsored by DianeRandallConsults.com. If you like this show, the best way to support it is by leaving 5-star feedback on iTunes. And please feel free to email your questions, comments, and suggestions to feedback@DianeRandallConsults.com. Until next week, namaste.